Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about all the movies I watched in the month of April 2026. And if you watched my last one, you know it was a different venue. I was filming it outside. I was filming it outside in my car, and it was nice getting the fresh air and whatnot. This time around, I've just decided to film it back up here only because I just recorded something, and this was the video I felt like recording after that. So why not? I'm in the mood to talk about some movies. So let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, every month I do this video with all the movies I watched for the first time, specifically in the last month. So there are plenty of other movies that are usually in the mix of ones I've watched before. And I actually will address them at the top of the show and say kind of roughly where I might place them on this ranking if they were first time watches, which is hard to do in some cases, especially this month, I feel. But 12 movies altogether. As always, the format goes as follows. There's going to be no spoilers. That way you can watch freely and not have fear of being spoiled with random movies. You don't entirely know what movies are to come. That's the fun of it. I'm ranking them from 12 to 1, but along the way I'll stop and note whenever we go up a tier with my what I call my highly nuanced tiering system. It goes from terrible to not good to okay to good, then great, and then amazing. All right. Sometimes some of the tiers aren't there. Sometimes, jumping from different up a significant amount. You never know. It depends on the month and the just that quality of the batch of movies, in my opinion. And as always, don't take it too much to heart. The specific ranking, I put as much thought of it as I can into it as I can. But oftentimes I'll, second guess my decisions even a week later, but certainly months later, I'll be like, wow, I would have done that completely differently. And now with this nuanced tiering system that I added, it adds an even more another layer of potential regret because I'm gonna say in plain terms, I'm gonna say a movie's not good when it's like there's nothing egregious about it, but that's just my label for essentially films that are around 2.5 stars on Letterboxd for me. That's really what it comes down to, is it's based on the scores that I give them. But yeah, so everything's subject to change and is completely subjective as well. So before we get into the ranking proper, the movies that I rewatched in this month are Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and Halloween H20, 20 years later. In case you can't tell, I'm watching through the Halloween movies again, and that's for a review series we're doing over on Tarkron. So if you want in-depth thoughts on every Halloween movie, we're going through them all right now. Where would I place them is tough. I would say Halloween 4 is in the not good tier. Halloween 5 is in the okay tier. And Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers is in the terrible tier. And Halloween H20, 20 years later, is in the great tier. So they're all across the board. H20 would probably end up being roughly number 5 or 6 on this list. And then Halloween 5 would probably be number 9 on this list. And then Halloween 4, probably like 10 or 11. So that's about where I'm at with that. And sorry, Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers would be number 11. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with the terrible tier, number 12, Color Me You, 2017. This is a movie I watched purely on Tarkron for a series we do called Chance Time, where we spin that wheel and it determines a random movie for us to watch out of literally the database of all movies on the streaming services we have. So that's why we end up with weird, weird oddballs in there. Sometimes movies you never heard of. This is one of them. Color Me You, I gave half a star on Letterboxd, or 1 out of 10 on our review. It really is abysmal. It is obviously it's not some prestige blockbuster film, so there's less expectations there. But as a story, it's really not compelling at all. The plot is fairly contrived. Like, it doesn't really make sense why the conflict they're trying to put on screen seems very artificial. Um, Characters are super unlikable. It's very dry at times. They try to make this like a romance movie, and it really doesn't work as a romance at all. And some bad writing, not great acting. It's really just got all the factors weighing against it, and that's why it's easily the worst that I watched this month, and one of the worst I've watched in a while. Next up, we're going to the not good tier for number 11, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the 2026 released latest movie from Illumination. I was trying to remember what it was called. Which, like, some people might think this is harsh. Look, in our review, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I don't know. I might have been a little generous with that, even, because as a movie, I think it kind of falls short plot wise. It's very, very thin. There's not much to it. It felt actually kind of disjointed with how random it would just be, like random reference, random reference, random reference, which is the thing I appreciated about the originals. It didn't really feel like that. Is like there's a lot of references, a lot of things to sink your teeth into for hardcore fans, but at the same time, there's still a nice little story in here, and you can enjoy it if you're not a hardcore Mario fan, you know. And as a hardcore Mario fan, I appreciated some of the references here, but it just felt like it was less thoughtful in how they went about it. The end sequence with the musical cues and that red and black power up from Mario Galaxy, the red star, which was a very deep cut. I appreciated that. That was all cool. Randomly throwing Smash Bros. Characters in there was cool, though I don't even know if that was that well done in a traditional film sense. But yeah, even if I'm not being super critical about it, I still think like I actually was pretty bored for stretches of this film, which is surprising to me, but it just did not hit the same as the original, if I'm being completely honest. I was like, the critics were harsh on both of these movies pretty much, and I was a defender of the first one. I thought it was perfectly, like, I quite enjoyed it for what it was, and beyond just the fan service. And in this one, it really doesn't rise above that and kind of falls flat as a movie for me. Number 10 is Eddington from 2025. This was the month where I was trying to wrap up the last of my 2025 releases that I had missed out on. This one and one more, but I really was going heavy early on in the year. It's like, okay, I've got almost all the essentials from 2025 at this point, and we're almost, now 5 months into the year. But Eddington, I had heard mixed things. Some people really liked it. Some people didn't work for them at all. I unfortunately seemed to fall onto the latter. There were some cool things done with it, and the tonal shift towards the end was really cool and almost like a Coen Brothers style to it. I appreciated that, but overall, like, the characters weren't really working for me. It's like Emma Stone's in this movie, but you would hardly know it with like that character. There's really nothing there. It was interesting, like having like a COVID focused movie like this, but it felt like almost we're not far enough removed from it to really be able to appreciate something like this. Like, there's still fresh, and I don't know if there was enough here to warrant it coming out at this time. Like, I appreciate part of what they're doing, and like I said, the tonal shift is crazy. This one was torn on whether it should be 3 stars, 2.5 stars. I ended up with 2.5, just because really ultimately I don't know how much I truly enjoyed the film. I don't know. It's one I don't feel super passionate about. That's for sure. Number 9, You, Me, and Tuscany. This is a new 2026 release. Watched it in the theaters. Same with Mario Galaxy movie. This one I watched pretty much just for Halle Bailey, and I knew it was like a cheesy rom-com style, and that was fine. I was here for it. It was like a chick flick, essentially, in the traditional sense. But and I didn't hate it. It wasn't like a negative viewing experience. So that's what I mean when I say like not good is like a very harsh label. It's just kind of a broad stroke tiering system. Could easily be an okay, but I was like, really, there's enough in here that I do scrutinize in that film. Like it feels weirdly empty. There's a point where you're like, they're in these cornfields, and then like it would cut over to a vehicle of people coming through, like commenting on what they're seeing. But the way it's shot and everything, you can very much tell that they're not actually in that space. So it's some weird things that's done with that, and in editing in general. The directing style wasn't my favorite. Just some weird things along the way. The plot obviously is silly. I don't think it's trying to take itself seriously in that regard. The plot is very goofy in like the lighthearted rom com way. But yeah, didn't hate it by any means, but just not it's not prestige filmmaking for sure. Now we're going into the okay tier. The okay, which is generally 3 stars on Letterboxd for me. That's for number 8, Michael. Michael, the 2026 release, another theater experience for me. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't enjoy it. Definitely enjoyed it more than you, me, and Tuscany in that way. But it's hard to say like it's hard to full on not enjoy it if you enjoy Michael Jackson's music, because it's very present, obviously. And Jafar Jackson, for him alone, I think it kind of gets a bump for me because his performance is really stellar. He really does just capture the essence of Michael Jackson perfectly well. Like he's very convincing. You could tell someone if they didn't know this movie existed, you could show footage of it, and it would be like, oh, that's Michael Jackson. Yeah, like who is this? Oh, that's Michael Jackson, and like you wouldn't really have much doubt in it if there was no knowledge of this. So I think it's just really done. There's attention to it. The physicality is all there. The voice is there. Like it's really impressive from Jafar Jackson. And young Michael is really good too. And those are the most essential things you need to nail for a biopic like this, which of course it did. So it passes that bar for sure. And in that way, that's why it's easy to enjoy it for that reason, because it's like, well, it's very convincing. The problem with the movie and where it doesn't really rise above is it feels pretty surface level. There's not too much depth to any of the characters. Michael Jackson, in particular, is as such an eccentric individual. It's like whether the controversy was deserved or not, or like whether he's guilty of what he's accused of. It's undeniable that he's a weird guy in some ways. Um, and then it's just like, well, add on the controversy, take it or leave it. That's another layer. But he's undeniably a complicated human being, and you don't really get that across. You get that across a little bit, like the loneliness of him, and like the way he was feeling isolated and pushed back into a corner in a way by his father, and all that trauma from that experience, and the dynamic of the household. Like you feel that, you feel like the child like mentality that he seemed to have, like that comes across obviously, but a little more nuance I think was needed. And I'm so curious with the sequel, like what are they going to do with that movie, because it's like there was no depth or like really a deep look at his character in this film. So like the back half of his life, or that last stretch of his life, is rife with controversy, and so it's like feels impossible to separate the two. So I don't know how they're gonna go about it in the film, but I'm intrigued. At the very least, it's a good movie going. Here's some Michael Jackson music and a couple good performances. Number 7, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, 2003 film. I had watched Charlie's Angels previously due to a random pick from a letterboxd user that I did in a little series that I have to get back to, where I would pick a random letterbox user, go to their four favorites, and the first one I haven't seen is the one I watched next. And so that's how I watched the original Charlie's Angels, which I quite enjoyed. I give that 3.5 stars, which is good to me. It's one of those movies where it's like it could not go above good. It really peaks there because, on an objective sense, it's not like the most high polished filmmaking, but it is very like self aware of how over the top stylized it is. And just at the end of the day, it's like sexy ladies being badasses and kicking ass, and super over the top shots and some funny dialogue in the mix. Like, it's a fun time. Couldn't be too mad at it. This one I ended up giving 3 stars on Letterboxd, so just a notch below. But I was teetering still because it's right in that ballpark. There's just some stuff that didn't work for me as much as the original. More glaring flaws and some really horrendous, like some horrendous visual effects. Like, I know it's early 2000s; they weren't refined by any means, but this was horrendous. And but yeah, I'm not gonna be mad at it. It is just these three sexy ladies doing their thing, and that's what it's all about, and that's fun. And I've literally realized from these movies, and a little bit from watching Kill Bill as well, ironically, the synergy, because that was another letterbox user's random choice there. I've discovered that like Lucy Liu is like a big crush for me. Like, I'm a big fan of Lucy Liu in this era. That's for sure. I shit you not, I did not intend this. But going into the good tier, I'm talking about a Lucy Liu film from 2025 called Rosemead. Wow, I didn't even think about that as I was talking that through, and it's like, okay, back to back Lucy Liu. Rosemead is a story based on a real individual and a real story, which is kind of mind blowing if you like watch the events of the film. The story is quite compelling. There's layers to it to where you just really have conflicted feelings throughout, and especially after the film ends. But it is definitely fascinating, and Lucy Liu does a great job at gripping you throughout. It's really not a fun watch. That's what I can easily say about it. It's one of those movies where it's like, if you're looking for a fun time, an easy time, stay far away. If you're in the headspace to take in a harder watch, or like to take on some emotional weight as you're watching, that might be the one for you. But simultaneously deeply frustrating, deeply disturbing, and thoroughly unpleasant to watch. And I mean that in the best way possible, I guess. It ends up as a good 3.5 star movie for me because it's so hard with movies like that to really balance all of that and perfectly feel content with like this a great film. It definitely could be. It's a borderline great film, but there's so much that makes it a rough watch, which it's hard. It's really hard. We're now going into the great tier for number 5, Whisper of the Heart, 1995. This is a movie we reviewed for Tarkaron as well. This was Alex's monthly movie night choice, so it was a movie that he adored, and he was showing me for the first time. A Studio Ghibli film that I hadn't seen. Still have quite a few of those. But at first I came into it and it was more on the good tier, 3.5 stars. And I still teeter on it, between that and 4 stars. I will say is one of the most grounded Studio Ghibli films I've seen, because Studio Ghibli, when you think of them, you think of something fantastical, like a My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, and all the craziness that ensues with the character designs and the worlds in there. Or like a Princess Mononoke, where it's really taking you on an adventure. Whisper of the Heart's so much more grounded. It's really like a teen romance at the center of it all. you look at the movie poster and there's like a cat flying alongside her, and you think it's really like completely different than what it ends up being. You wouldn't think that's the most grounded film, but it's interesting the way they tackle different things. You can check out our review for my more of my in-depth thoughts. But ultimately, I just think the vibes are great, the dynamics great. I actually like the little teen drama and teen love triangle in the mix. Like there's cute little dynamics the characters have and the friends there, and then the romance feels authentic too. It's fun, it's wholesome, and it shows how like an impact that someone can have on you. It's a nice little message. Number four, 500 Days of Summer, 2009. Not too far off in the grand scheme of things tonally from A Whisper of the Heart. It is a romance type film at the center of it. And this one I was torn on as well. Should it be great or good? Um, there are things that feel cheesy. They feel super like 2009 is when it came out. It feels very of that time, that vibe, which is part of the charm and the way the film even looks. But I just appreciated some of the direction that the film took. Certain choices with the shots were fun and clever, and have been referenced in the zeitgeist of cinema since, and in just the world of the internet. When I was first watching, I thought it was going to be a little too corny for me, and it did seem to be leaning that direction. But some of the writing really is like that, like it is too corny. But the film really won me over by the end. I think once you see the scope of it all, that's what it made me appreciate it more than in the moment leading up to it. I loved how the context of the whole thing really like recontextualizes things. They did creative things with the presentation, which I admire and appreciated. Some of it was a little overly sappy, which didn't fully work for me. But ultimately, I really appreciated what the identity of the film, what it was going for, different messaging than I was expecting going into it, even halfway through the film. It's an interesting little journey there. I will say some of the supporting characters were pretty grating and didn't work for me. But overall, I found it to be quite charming. It hit the right emotional beats when it needed to. And yeah, I appreciated a lot of this film. Number three, Secret Mall Apartment, 2024. This is a documentary film, which again, I've said it time and time again, they're hard to place in the rankings. But this one, whenever I watched it, firmly was towards the top of the rankings. There was something about hearing this concept. I was like, all right, I need to watch it immediately. I'll just read the description on Letterboxd. In 2003, 8 Rhode Islanders created a secret apartment inside a busy mall and lived there for 4 years, filming everything along the way. Far more than a prank, the secret apartment became a deeply meaningful place for all involved. I just love the sentimentality of the whole thing. I don't know what it is, like I say, the other like 500 Days of Summer is overly sappy at times, but at the same time, I love like it's this cool thing that all these people involved really resonate with. They even have like a little keepsake, the key from this apartment that they keep on their key ring. That's just so cool to me. And this idea of like this time, it also harkens back to a time where like malls were at their peak, and the way like is that concept just not compelling to you hearing that? It does like deviate a little bit from what you're expecting going to the film. Like it ends up focusing more on like a specific guy and his endeavors outside of it. So it's not full on like you're just going in on this concept, but you do get a lot of it, and it's interesting where it takes you. Ultimately, the resolution could have been more satisfying, but from factors outside of the documentary filmmaker's control, you don't have full footage of certain things, and so they had to do recreations later on, which weren't as effective for me. But overall, I thought it was super compelling, and this is like a beauty of one aspect of documentary filmmaking. Because on one side of documentary filmmaking, you have super meaningful stories that are dealing with like current issues or big historic events, and they can be beautifully effective in that aspect. But then you have just fun documentaries on a random niche thing like this, and I love it all the same. So if that sounds like a vibe to you, I would recommend it. Number two, the drama 2026. Look, I know people are torn on this. It's like the messaging, and I can't really talk much about it because the beauty of this film is really knowing as little as possible and just going into it. Just know that obviously Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, their dynamics at the core of it. That's what makes it work. It's fascinating watching them. I'm a huge Zendaya fan, and I think she's a joy to watch in this. And Robert Pattinson is great as well, and just the roller coaster you're taking on with this. And I just think, again, I can't really get into it, but obviously the big concept of the film is what's talked about after watching it. And for me, yeah, it's not always done perfectly clean. Like some things played for laughs that I don't think should be played for laughs. But overall, I thought it was really interesting and it adds like a ask you an interesting question on humans and like what is too far, what is past forgiveness, and ultimately like how we reevaluate someone based on one unknown truth that comes uncovered. I don't know, that's the vaguest way I can say any of that, but it's fascinating to me. I'd love to actually discuss it with someone who's watched it. Now, the number one film of April 2026 for me that I watched for the first time is still in the great tier, but it is I Swear, which is a US release 2026. Watched it in theaters on the last day that was really showing around me, which is crazy. It was a very brief stint near me. It was only in theaters for like a week or maybe like 2 weeks, but still, I was like, dang, I need to get in on this while I can. But yeah, if you followed award season, you might know this film because famously, Robert Aramayo won the BAFTA for Best Lead Actor in a spot where it was like the race was like Timothy Chalamet. He was leaning towards Timothy Chalamet, but it could be an outsider. And instead of any of the ones that were part of the relevant Oscar award season, it went to Robert Aramayo because in Britain it had released in 2025 within that the time frame needed to be eligible. So it almost feels out of left field, but now having seen it, I kind of get it. Like, even if it wasn't just like, yeah, he's a British actor, there was a bias there. I I don't really need to squint that much to see him being maybe the best performance of that bunch of an already stacked cast of performances. Like that's really the selling point of this movie. The great performance is very convincing. It's beautifully done, really. There's some hard to watch parts in the beginning of him as a younger child, but ultimately it's a more of a feel good type movie with a more inspiring message. It's like fairly wholesome, um, essentially following a particular individual with Tourette's and his struggles that he went through and ultimately his accomplishments that came out of it. So it's an inspiring story. It's acted superbly well. That's what that sells it beautifully. And yeah, I think it's a great film. And I would love to see Robert Aramayo in the mix for the Oscars come this next award season, a little less than a year from now. I would love to see that. Hopefully, it's a weird thing with how it's cut off because the fact that he was in the BAFTA from last year and he was able to win that, but then he just misses the cutoff for this Oscars, and so now we have months and months to wait. So hopefully he can stay in there. I would love to see it, but who knows? Might be more of a British thing, that he was able to get awarded in that way. But still, I just want to give him all the kudos for this performance. It's worth watching for that alone, if nothing else. And it's a sweet story too, like genuinely heartwarming film, which you don't get every day. You really don't. Like, look at my other theater experiences. I named multiple theater experiences, and I don't think any of them were, well, I could say genuinely heartwarming. And I Swear certainly clears that. So that's it for the month of April 2026. It's I'm still trying to keep on pace with over 10 movies a month and hopefully hope to continue that. My foot has been less on the gas with movies, but I really need to get on it because I'm gonna fall behind again on all these new releases as well as old ones I was trying to keep up on, and new random movie experiences like a 500 Days of Summer that I'll watch on a whim here or there. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on any of my rankings. Do you agree or disagree? What movies have you been watching? Let me know. Subscribe to the channel for more on film and television. See ya.